the river, this is the Panj River, the Panj River. It only looks to be, well, yeah, through here, maybe 1 foot, 2 foot deep. It's nothing. Well, we could just drive across, and you could walk across there and not get your knees wet. There's Afghanistan, you know, just 50 meters away. Just there, like the river only looks to be about 10 meters wide and probably only about a foot deep. I mean, I've seen military around the place, but I'm sure there's people, like, I don't know, keeping an eye on things. Well, I guess why would the Taliban want to come over here? Like, they're having hard enough time dealing with what they've got over there. But it just sort of blows my mind that, you know, this isn't really like a great stopper to one of the most feared groups in the world. To just be here, just wading on through, and I could say good day to them. G'day, Cobber. What's going on, mate? Well, this is my little homestay for the night. A little village just before Langar. Check it out. Got plum trees, plenty of plums, ripe ones up the top. Apple trees, lovely little garden. These guys are playing some kind of backgammon, chess, something like that. I'm not quite sure. Let's go for a little explore of the village. Okay, let's not lose our house. This is it. So this is kind of where, you know, tomorrow when we carry on, we'll part ways with the Wakhan. So here it is. What a beautiful and little known part of the world. Did you know it was a thing? Do you want to know why it's a thing? Ooh! History time with J.A. Why is the Wakhan Corridor the Wakhan Corridor? Why is it part of Afghanistan? And the Wakhan Corridor is also known as the Panhandle because Afghanistan's this big lump of a country with this panhandle coming out of it. Now, for anyone that knows the history, let's go back a bit to, well, to Britain having India. Britain was also, well, they had Afghanistan for a while there, and they were also on good accord with the Shah of Persia, as it was then known, current day Iran. So Britain kind of had this whole southern Asia kind of area. Russia, well, they quite wanted a little piece of that. Nothing was known of Central Asia. Very few people had been there or had been there and come back alive, because it was, you know, these areas weren't countries like they are today. They were just major cities like Bukhara or Samarkand or something like that. And each one of these to get to was exceptionally difficult. There clearly weren't roads and things like that. And the locals took exception to any foreigners coming into their territory, to their separate little kingdoms, if you will. Anyone that went there, well, usually got chucked in a pit with snakes or something like that. They had all sorts of fun ways of disposing of people. Nothing was known about how Russia could potentially bring an invading force of troops into India, which was England's biggest fear. They were going to come on in and take it over. And so spies, the great game was afoot. Spies were sent out on both sides. On the Russian side had their spies, so they're heading south, looking all through the mountains, checking out the little villages and the cities and the mountain passes, you know, just coming through areas where, you know, what are the locals like? Are there locals here? England was doing the same thing from that side of the mountain. And they had their spies coming through, trying to like talk to locals, get a feeling of what's going on, try to get local tribes on side to act as spies for them. So it was all about how can Russia potentially get an invading force through, and that was the big question on both sides. That carried on for about 100 years, with Russia at various times being the deceiving trixies that they are. They'd often go to, let's say, a city somewhere in current day Uzbekistan. They'd go there and with a force of like, you know, 1,000 people or something like that, and England would send people, you know, send letters to them and go, what are you doing, guys? You can't be here. This is you know, you're starting to come into Persian territory, which back then was sort of, you know, British. You know, the Shah said we won't let anyone in, and Russia was like, oh, niet, you have it all wrong. We're not here for invading. We're on holiday. And the Brits would be like, what, chaps? What are those rifles you have there with you then? Taking rifles on holiday? Oh no, you have it all wrong. Hang on, let me give a Russian accent back. Niet, not rifle. Selfie sticks. Yes, we like taking photo with selfie sticks. Looks like rifle, but it's modern selfie stick. We take photos. See, look at me. Everybody, see, take photo. And England would go, okay then, chaps. Carry on as you were then. Enjoy your little holiday. They'd bugger off. Then Russia would invade and destroy and take over the village, and Britain would go, hey, what was that all about then? Russia go, very sorry, no idea what happened there. my voice is straining. Somebody got wrong information and whoops-a-daisy. So big whoops-a-daisy, but now we're here. We will stay. We like the cuisine, we like the people, and so they want our protection. They want us here, actually. They love us here. So they would do that. And they'd take over one, and then Britain would say, no, don't go any further. And Russia, of course, we never meant for this to happen. We're just holiday makers. It just was an accident. And then they would do it again. They'd off to the next one. England would do the same thing. What are you doing? Russia would go, nothing's happening here. Don't look. Don't look at me. I'm so photo shy. And then they would just, as soon as England was like, oh, okay, Russia, bam, we'll take it again. And they did that time and time again until they started coming in to the Persian and Afghan frontiers. And this wasn't something that that England could abide. And because Russia over the course of 100 years had lied well over 100 times, they decided, because there was no clear definitive boundary of where Russia could and couldn't go to, England was just hoping they'd just be nice guys, but they just weren't. So they then created, well, they didn't create the Wakhan Corridor geographically, but they said, this here, you are not allowed into this valley. You go into this valley, then England will declare war on you. And Russia then couldn't play the whole thing of, oh, whoops a daisy, we didn't. There was a very definite line through, well, up in the mountains. So the boundary, current day Afghanistan boundary, is the river, and the Wakhan heads up there. So they created a space between Central Asia, so Tajikistan, and what was then India. So Pakistan is just over here, so that was India. So it's this buffer zone, which is quite narrow. It's about a 16k at some points, between the Tajik and it just sort of like runs through here. And if Russian troops, I mean, they could come up onto the hill and have a little bit, we come for a little another looky. We like the holiday here every time, it's fun. And then English troops would be up here and they go, oi, piss off, back to your side, you know you're not allowed in here. No, okay, you're right, okay. So this whole corridor here just became a big buffer, so that Russia couldn't keep playing tricksy jerks, and land grabbing clearly hasn't stopped them. They just land grab elsewhere. Isn't Russia big enough for them? Like, they cannot deal with the poverty and the vast expanses of their current land. Why the frig would you want more? Like, how about like you sort out what you're able to, like your own little country. And they go, oh man, we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough land to house our people. Jesus Christ, you've got like the largest country by a long way and you still want more? But that has always been Russia's thing. I just keep on wanting. So that is how the Wakhan Corridor, well, got its name, and how Afghanistan sort of ended up wedging itself between it, because back then Afghanistan was on good terms with England. So what was the ruler of Afghanistan? He wasn't a Shah, the Khanate? Oh, I can't remember what you call a ruler of Afghanistan. Anyway, he said, don't worry, we got Afghanistan between here. We'll make sure that those pesky Russians don't come on in. Of course they did come in, and when the Russians invaded Afghanistan in, when was that? I want to say the 1970s, I might be completely wrong on that, but anyway, yeah. Enough of that. So there's history. History time, history time, history time's fun with Jake sometimes, yeah. Here are the Pamir Mountains. These here are the Karakoram Mountains, and somewhere around here is where the Karakoram kind of becomes the Hindu Kush. So somewhere around there it kind of all merges together, and a bit of a mountain soup. But the Karakoram, which just up here was where I sort of was earlier, heading up, well, when I was up the top at Sost, and the Karakoram Highway, that's where there was that trail that led you into the Wakhan Corridor of Afghanistan up there. So it's interesting when you travel around these sorts of places, you've never heard of them in your life, and you can't picture what they'll be like, and all of a sudden you spend a bit of time in the country and its neighbouring countries, and it all starts to fit together like a big jigsaw puzzle, and it all just starts to make sense of what, you know, otherwise I'd be standing here going, what's on the other side? Well, I know what's on the other side of these now, I've been there. So I haven't been on the other side of these. So there's some people, hopefully they are friends. Alrighty. That's probably that's probably the worst way I've said probably. So we'll work on that word, and fuck it, let's walk into let's just carry on into Afghanistan. Are these the little, is this the moat? Is this it? If I jump on the other side of this, there's footprints, Afghan footprints. Jesus. I don't know if I'm going to go much further because pretty much the boundary to Afghanistan is very close to where I am. I don't want to be shot. So this is here with the Wakhan Corridor. This is a big mountain here. The valley we've been coming along goes up that way. So that heads on well up to the Pamir Highway and then onto Kyrgyzstan. This here becomes wholly and solely Afghanistan. So my guess is that, well, part of this mountain here where I am sort of comes through here. That's Afghanistan. That goes into the, well, the mystical part of Afghanistan that not many people get to go and see. That was the part of Afghanistan that I wanted to go to before, when I started this trek and started researching on this trip. That was one of my goals, was to get a guide, the Afghan, one of the villages that we've come through, and to take me up through into the mountains for 2 weeks, hiking up through there. So that's a bit of a shame. Can't do that now. The Taliban are apparently in the Wakhan, and traditionally the Taliban have left the Wakhan Corridor kind of to their own Muslim light. So, delicious Muslim light. Not extremist, we won't cut your head off. So, Muslim light is what they sort of have traditionally practiced right throughout this Wakhan Corridor, which you'll see with the Tajik people. You know, the women are brightly coloured, slightly reminiscent of the Kailash women. Don't have to have their faces covered and things like that. The men don't have to have beards. Obviously Taliban's, I'm walking into Afghanistan now I think, the Taliban's, they're super strength Muslim. So they're fundamentalist. So they're going back to the roots of old school Quran teachings, where you can't see anything of a woman, you have to be burqa, men should have beards, all that sort of rubbish. So now the Taliban are coming in here for the first time pretty much in the Wakhan Corridor's history of millennia of people being here and just living happily in the Wakhan. They're coming in here and forcibly converting people. So it's a little bit sad. Not many people, you have to say that nobody's gone up into the Afghan Wakhan since Taliban took control. When was that? Last year, late last year. So who knows what's going on up there. The watershed from these mountains and the glaciers and the snowmelt leads us way down the valley, and it goes to a place that I'll be heading to in probably a bit over a month's time in Kazakhstan, the Aral Sea. That's right, my little friends. This river here runs to the Aral Sea, one of the world's greatest environmental disasters at the hands of the Soviets. So you'll have to keep watching to find out what that was all about. Well, you could obviously Google it. So anyway, so I find one day this water we'll be in Kazakhstan, and they're probably just dry out with the intense bloody 50-degree desert heat. I'm sorry, water. Stay here, man. Stay here. Life is good in this valley for you. Don't head that way. Well, if I didn't head that way, that would mean it'd be dammed here, and then the whole Wakhan Corridor would be one giant lake. So, carry on! Do as you please, water. Do as you please. Okay, it's a lovely part of the day, 4:30. Checked out some fun forts. There are other forts. There's another one just on the hill over here, which I asked the driver to take me to, which he couldn't, because although it's a well-preserved fort, there's people in it, the Tajik army. So they're using the fort for the very reason it was built. So 2,000 years later, there's still military utilising it. I reckon the military should get to rebuilding that the Yamchang fort down there, and then give guided tours for people like me. Go and spend the night there, shower, and they can put on like a dance routine in the evenings in the big town square area. Oh, wouldn't that be a treat? Got to thinking, a lot of you guys are probably wondering, Jake, how do you stay so informative and humorous while facing down one of the most notorious countries in the world, the Taliban? You face them down, you chit chat, make a little joke, and you don't even have a quiver in your voice, or a quiver in your bow and arrow. Well, I believe this comes from having an older brother that would hold you down and do typewriter on your chest. You faced that down as a child, you can face anything down. Thanks, Luke. Here you go. Come to, here's their gym. Here's the public city gym. You can lie down on this and do a few things, or just sit there like that. And then on this one here, you can do some gymnastics and then do a spin over the top. But you're probably not doing that. And then you spin on that one around and done. And just practice that routine exactly how I just taught it then. And you'll be in the Olympics in no time and have a refreshing cold water. I kind of don't know where I am, because I most definitely did not come this way. Look at these. These are bullet holes, eh? Surely. That's always a good sign, isn't it? So, you know what? I mean, some people just have that inbuilt GPS, and Alosa, hey. And voila, found it. Just did a little loopsy, and away we go. Yeah, these guys, they'll spend all the summer collecting and drying the dung for heating and cooking and such forth throughout the winter. Winter time here would be pretty quiet time. You just stay indoors and, I don't know, pick your toenails, I guess. Fun.